I tell you, I wake up in the morning and I don't check the weather for my house. I check the weather for your house
That's probably a
because
pretty smart thing
because
to do.
because you're going to be late because you're out snow blowing and snow throwing and snow doing whatever you do to
No,
snow to get
something
rid of it.
and enough to get up to my horses. So
Why don't you move the horses?
actually, Kimberly has been talking about doing that.
See, smart lady, smart
She is a
lady.
she is a very smart lady.
Hey,
That would
you
be a
just
very
celebrated
foolish
a,
thing to do.
a 10th anniversary, huh?
We
Hu-
did.
Huzzah. A lot of big things happened. This was the week of my our middle grandson's 16th birthday,
No kidding.
which is and I so I've found a little secret for the little hack for birthdays and important birthdays. You can go onto Etsy, and there is a whole group of people who will laser cut greeting cards for you. So
Kidding.
there's one that's got the one I got was a big 16 and it lasered hey, happy birthday in the 16 and then had his name lasered, just cut out of the paper and nice gold. They did a beautiful job, beautiful job. And it's like it's cheaper than a card at CVS. And um, and then I went through because I've been at every one of well, not everyone, but I've been at a lot of his birthdays, including the most important, the first one.
Right.
And so I got pictures and I loaded my printer with the photo paper and I printed the most embarrassing of those, and as grandfathers are supposed to do, and sent them in the card. And I knew that would put a smile on his face.
I want to know what those pictures were.
Just, when he was a couple of hours old in the arms of his dad and his mom and camping and his first fishing trip and that kind of stuff and because you can sort by date and place and time and all that stuff, you can go and say show me all the February 20th 21st, and it
Hmm.
does, and son of a gun, isn't he his picture right there, and I loved it. So I love celebrating milestones in one way or another, right?
I think that is so fantastic.
And I think it is also the way of creating family traditions. There's a certain number of family traditions we all have that were passed down to us, right? This is the way my mom always
Hmm.
did this, and my dad always did that, my grandpa always did that. What we probably don't know is what did their mom do or their dad do,
Right.
unless they told us, right? If they told us, then we know.
Then we
And
would know.
and I love creating space for new traditions to happen.
Hmm.
And here's the question: what is it about the tradition that is so comforting?
That's a good question. I hadn't thought about that.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's our show. He's Dewey Freeman. I'm Mark Sylvester. This is the Elder Council. My job is to ask him questions that he hasn't thought about, and you get to listen to his answers.
So my first inclination is predictability and belonging, and that each family have whatever their tradition is unique to them
Mhm.
and allows us to go, oh, this is a tradition in and from my family that's unique to my family. And following the tradition actually gives us belonging.
Yeah, that it's a tie that binds us, and
Hmm.
in some ways, it's not necessarily secret, but it's also not necessarily something we talk about outside of the family.
Right. And when we have the tradition like in the family, we we all know it and most other people don't. And again, I like what you're saying. It's not secret, but it's also not it's sort of
It's
both
private.
ours.
It's
Right.
private. Yeah, there's unless it's a unless it's kind of quirky. Maybe it could be a quirky tradition that has embedded in it its own story that makes it fun to
Hmm.
tell. Like we always do this. We always wear the same clothes. We all dress up in the same kind of polo shirt, or we do this or we do that. And you'll hear people say, "Yeah, I know it's weird, but it's our thing."
Hmm. Hmm.
Right, right, and you feel I like the sense of belonging. Remember we did a show about rules, the rules of a group, the spoken rules, the unspoken rules, and it kind of feels within that deal. Like we know that the rule for the foods we will have on Thanksgiving, it will always be these foods, and then someone will want to go rogue. Oh, here's one. So my daughter, uh, she said, "Dad, I want you to make my birthday meal," and it's ribs and macaroni and cheese, and that was her thing. Don't remember how that started, but that is a sense memory for her. And if
Hmm.
she's going to come up here, she wants ribs. So I'm a chef, and so I'm gonna one birthday. I probably within the last 10 years I chefed it up. Yeah, I made some beautiful ribs, and I made like a lobster mac, and it was nice. It was very nice. She was very disappointed. Why?
Really?
Why did you change? Why did you change? I want beef ribs, salt and pepper, and I want not Kraft macaroni and cheese, but
But like real macaroni and cheese.
yeah, just plain
But that
Pops.
simple.
Don't chef it up. And I just learned, I also learned that one of my traditions is embarrassing her on her birthday in some way, finding some unique way to do that. And it's a very loving thing. And if I don't do it, she's like, no, that's our thing, Pops. Right? That's our
Mhm.
thing is
She
to
gets a
do
little bit
that.
disappointed.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And so I wonder because those offer us such joy. They do. Do we, as leaders in our family, or leaders, I don't think we do these at work. We could probably think about that. But
You
in
mean
our
have certain
families,
traditions in certain
yeah,
groups?
yeah.
Hmm.
But do we, as the head of household, uh, do we conjure up into these occurrences? Do we take advantage of hey, let's make that a tradition, or like the Buddhists, as you know, have this saying called "call it into being," right? So
Hmm.
do we call a tradition into being, or does it reveal itself after the second or third year?
My, I guess one of my wonderings is what's the difference between those two? Is one more conscious than the other, or is one?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Kimberly has traditions that her mom had traditions of every year the Christmas tree had a different theme. And
Mm,
she didn't like pull out the Christmas stuff and put everything up. It was like very intentional. This year it's going to be X, and it would be. And and that's a thing that she wants to do and does on purpose. Not totally that way, but there are nuances of that
hmm.
makes her
That she
feel
carries on.
that
Hmm.
connects her to her mom, right? And I kind of like that, and I think that I don't know if it if it fulfills some need for nostalgia, Does it to that sense of belonging? I mean, like right now we're feeling profoundly disconnected in what's going on and all of this. And so I think I'm looking for things that help me feel more connected.
Hmm.
and and it hit me that this idea of birthdays are traditions, anniversaries are traditions. The first time you do a thing, oh, here's another example. As our listeners know, I run a comedy school with Kimberly, and we have our own troupe, our own improv troupe. We're actually performing tonight at the Conejo Valley Improv Festival, about an hour south of here. But we also do field trips. Part of our tradition is we do 4 or 5 field trips to go see really, really good improv. And we went and saw Who's Line um, down in Thousand Oaks on Thursday
Really?
night. Yeah, we went and
Like
saw
the Whose
them.
Line Is It?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That one?
So the show doesn't exist, but the troupe continues on, and we see them a couple times a year, and they're with 2,000 other people. But when we come back, we there's an all night donut shop in Camarillo, and part of what our tradition is, we're going to pull off and go stand in line at midnight or 1 in the morning.
Hmm.
There will be a line, and we'll talk about, isn't it funny that we're standing in line at 1 in the morning eating donuts and not one of us needs to eat another donut. Um, but we brought a new member of the troupe with us this time, and we said, oh well, one of the things we do. So it's kind of like you're now in the club because you know this thing. And so I'm
Hmm.
curious if we were to do an inventory of those little things that we do, will you have a short list or do you have a long list?
It's interesting because I would, right off the top of my head, I would say I have a relatively short list, but then if I were to really stop and think about it, it might not be quite so short. So
Mm,
what I'm aware of as you're talking is that there are some that are pretty, for lack of better word, sacred,
mm,
like for Kimberly and me. Then there are other ones that are a little, it's like, oh yeah, this is what we do kind of thing.
mm,
Like, and what would fit in that category, there's a great breakfast restaurant called Blue Sky. It's like natural foods and they're really good and they're very creative with their food and what they provide. And probably 3 times a month on a Sunday, we'll go there. And and it it when that doesn't happen, it feels like
mm.
something's missing. And and what's also interesting about it is there've been a couple of times where it's like, well, should we invite so and so? It's like, well, as much as we'd like that person, the answer is no. This is ours.
So
And
we're protective of our traditions.
totally. And what I'm wondering about is, because like I said, I haven't thought about this much, is do things become tradition because we protect them? Is that one of the sort of underlying criterion, maybe? I don't know if that's the right word or not.
So if the protection is protection against outsiders to a degree, like shields are up, right? Because part of the one of the things it does is it binds a group of people together, binds the family, binds a couple, binds the team, binds the our tradition as a team
Hmm.
is we always wear headbands. Our tradition, look at all the traditions which are called superstitions in sport, right?
Hmm.
That's our tradition is we don't shave in the off season or in the after whatever the after part is called. This is regular season. No, postseason. That's what it's called. Postseason. Sorry, sports fans. Uh, that that's a tradition, but it's a thing that binds us together.
Hmm.
And if other people, I could imagine then if someone else showed up and they go, "Yeah, we know you always have breakfast here, and so we thought we'd join you," that would feel like a violation, like you'd been
Right.
violated, right?
Yeah, that would feel, yeah, and if we actually get, just in thinking about that, if it was like, oh, well, let's invite this person, let's invite this couple, and if that happened, like a once in a while kind of thing, if someone we ran into somebody, that would be cool. But if it would be, if it was like, oh, well, let's invite so and so and let's invite this other person and maybe this couple, I think there would be a place where I would not want to do it anymore
Right, right.
because it, even though it's public, it's known, there's still a level of sacredness for me. It's like one, Kimberly and I both work out of our little homestead here, but it's like there's a lot of times where, or even like the last 3 days, I was teaching with Man Uncivilized, and it's like Kimberly was home seeing clients and taking care of our place, and it was like, um, I want that special time with her,
Mm,
and sometimes we get into unbelievably wonderful discussions, and sometimes it's like doing silly things,
mhm.
and it's not it, but it is special. So, and I can also see like if like with your um pandas or something
Yeah,
pandas.
the pandas are the club,
Yeah, the
or
pandas,
yeah,
yeah. And it's like when it's also would be a way to invite if when someone has joined and been there over time to invite them to be a part of the quote family, so to speak.
right, right,
I could see that.
right, right. It's like the secret handshake,
Yeah,
right, right, the
yeah.
secret handshake. And so, um, I'm curious, are there people, this is an interesting point, I don't even know how to get this one, that don't have traditions or don't like they're no, we don't, we like doing something different all the time. They just, they're not yes and people, they're no but people, right? So they like, we don't want tradition. I don't like that feels like there's some trauma maybe associated
No, there's something
with,
in there. Yeah.
right? There would be something in there that you didn't want that. So is that part of the human condition that we seek for form and regularity, and as sometimes as much as we want things to change, we crave similarity?
Yeah, I think that there is there is something about, and again, for lack of better words, there's something about knowing who our tribe is.
I now here's something that's interesting. It's been going in my head because the word tribe came up 20 minutes ago in my brain. But tribe
I saw
and
it written right here.
tribalism, yeah, I was right in blazing red letters. Tribe and tribalism has been one of those words that recently has, for me, taking on a negative connotation.
I think that's true, but it that hasn't always been the case.
Correct.
That the word,
Correct.
and I think there's a big difference between tribe and tribalism.
Hmm.
A part of what, well, there's two things. One is like through the Gestalt Equine Institute that we run, people won't use the tribe word tribe, but they'll say I feel like I'm part of the herd.
Mm,
Um, but the other part is I also think that there's something really important about when a group or a somebody wants to co-op a certain word or phrase. I think it's important to not let that happen. That it's important to go, yeah, that's what you're doing with it, but that hasn't been the meaning of this word for centuries. So I'm not going to let that be co-opted into something negative.
mm, mm. Interesting. You know, as you were saying that, I was thinking how two of the higher order bits of things that we want in life is to feel connected and to feel recognized. I think
Mm-hmm.
those two those are big ones, right?
Yeah, those are pretty big deals.
Those are big ones. And the feeling connected, there's an epidemic. Some will say, let me say that. Some will say there's an epidemic of loneliness right now, especially
Mm-hmm.
around young men, and isolation, and which possibly suggests they don't feel part of a tribe. Because if you felt part of a tribe and had a sense of belonging, you wouldn't feel, but possibly you wouldn't feel lonely. Am I right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the way that I would say it, I think there's a crisis of disconnection.
Okay. They even better. Yeah, even better.
And and actually, interestingly enough, it's like part of that does, I think, have to do with traditions being relegated to the background
Right. Right.
or traditions not being honored.
Right.
And I mean, that kind of process, because it's, and what I'm sort of jamming on in my mind here is, do traditions create community? So if I use
Or is it
the
the other way around?
right, right. And and again, just metaphorically, if we know the secret handshake, then we can be part of that community.
Right.
And
And which bestows upon you all the benefits associated with that, right? So
correct.
this notion of member benefits. As a member of this family, you have a
Mhm.
benefit of unconditional love. You have a benefit of people have your back. You have a benefit of those are two big ones. But there
Oh,
are
those are
benefits,
two
right?
huge, huge ones.
Right.
And when we don't have the benefit of community slash family, when we don't have somebody to get our backs or to know, and what I think, what it, it's like, I don't need somebody to have my back all the time. What I need is to know that when I need somebody to have my back, that can happen pretty much immediately.
And you don't have to, and you don't think about that. You just
Right.
know
And I
that.
don't,
You just need to know that.
right, right. It's like there are, and when somebody doesn't have that, then I think that that really is, that leaves people pretty connected and pretty lonely.
Yeah, yeah, very much
And
so.
and it is interesting, like when we go to a place of what's it of, do I know the tradition? Do I know the way in? Do I know how to become a member of a community. So, or a particular tribe without using the concept of tribalism, but the
Because those are usually unwritten, unspoken, unreferenceable, and uh, you can imagine the new person in the tribe who's willingly. I mean, we this is a not a usurper. You know, this is someone we've invited into the tribe, and then the
right.
tribe all does a thing, the group all does a thing, and the person is like looking around and go, what's happening right now? And someone will go, oh yeah, this is our thing, we always do this. Oh, okay, cool.
Hmm.
Oh, cool.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
I'm with that. We can all see that. We've all been that person, right? Where it's
Hmm.
like, oh god, yeah, I'm the new kid for a minute, and then I'm
Right.
not the new kid until there's the next new kid, right? And then we're in.
Yeah, and I actually had that experience recently um, in jujitsu where, um, and this was a couple 3 months ago, couple months ago, where most of my work in jujitsu I've done through private lessons with my teacher. And I just happened to be there and have the time to stay for a group lesson. And it was actually and I'd known some of the people. I mean, I've seen many of the people in the group, but it was so it wasn't an unfamiliar group, but some of the quote traditions were unfamiliar because I'd been at other academies or other dojos. And the like for instance, in some dojos, there's a you, we would bow before we would step on the mat, and then you step on the mat with your left foot first. And this particular one was not that, but people would be the teacher would be the sensei would be or professor is what the term is, which was also different. It's like, oh, professor, that's a new term to me
Right,
in that.
right.
And but after instructions and there was a technique was being taught, there would be a everyone the professor would teach, and then the whole group would clap their hands when they were ready to go in unison. It was like I didn't know that, so it was like the first time it was like, oh, oh, and there wasn't any judgment with it. It's like, oh, that's what one of the traditions is here. And then before you would go try a technique, you there would be a fist bump or a handshake, which actually meant we're going to work on this together.
Mm.
So um, it's that kind of stuff, and it was like the when we know even those little simplest things, it actually makes us feel part of something. It's like which is we need that. That is such a big deal for us.
So this week, challenge out to someone who's listened is look for those traditions, those things that you do that help bind you to family, to work, to a work group, a social club, whatever tribes, various tribes you were in and out of during the week,
Right.
and notice those things, and then on the closest tribe to you, your family, think about that because those are things that we all like, we appreciate them, we crave them, even though we may not know that we're craving them. We sure notice them when we don't have
Yeah, and exactly. And an awful lot of times when someone feels like, quote, something is missing, a
them.
lot of times what's happening is that they just missed the tradition. They just missed it. And many times those things are really small things and really important things.
Because you'll say, I know it's not that big a deal that whatever. But I missed that.
It's not that big a deal that I don't clap my hands. No one's going to be, I'm not going to get kicked out of the academy. But it is a big deal to go, oh yeah, I'm a part of this. I don't want to miss that.
Hey, I miss you each week, and I love to get together on Saturdays to talk about these ideas.
I love this. I love you. I will be rooting for you for your show tonight.
Thank you.
All
Bye
right.
bye.
Bye bye.